All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. All three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be showing you the top 10 thriller series according to me, myself. Let's go over the rules that I've set for myself here a little bit. So a thriller series is something like, James Bond-ish, Jason Bourne-ish, John Wick-ish. Those are thrillers. You've got your different type of thrillers. You've got your international thrillers. You've got your spy thrillers. You've got your World War II thrillers. You've got all sorts of thriller novels out there. All categories. I just am not doing supernatural thrillers, no fantasy or science fiction. And each one of the thriller series has to have, because I've got a video out there of my top 20 or so thriller novels, which is going to be different than this list, because those were just thriller novels. Those were singular novels. Those were standalone novels. This is thriller series. So I had to make, well, what constitutes a series? One book? No. 2 books? I decided if there were 3 books or more in the series, it could make the list. So, for my top 10 thriller series of all time, and I will be ranking them in order of my, I like all of these. If I'm showing you one of these books, that means I like it. I like it a lot. I like these series. But I had to rank them in some way. So we'll start with 10 and work our way down to 1. And also, one of the other rules that I had to have for this was I have to own the series. All the books in the series in my library, I have to own them, which I do. So let's get to it. So, my top 10 thriller series of all time, starting at number 15. I couldn't narrow it down to 10, folks. I couldn't narrow it down to 10. In fact, it isn't even 15. It's actually 14. I messed it up. See, that says 14. 14. So, A Time to Kill. This is the Jake Brigance trilogy. It began with A Time to Kill by John Grisham, his first ever novel. The second novel was Sycamore Row, and the third novel was A Time for Mercy. So I considered this, John Grisham's one of my favorite writers. This is a trilogy he wrote starring the same guy. It's a legal thriller. That's another category that I think I said was going to be in this. So legal thrillers also count. This is a legal thriller, A Time to Kill. The Jake Brigance trilogy. Starting off at number 14, we got John Grisham. And then at number 13, we've got Brad Thor, his Scott Harvath series. Probably about 25 books now in this series. The Lions of Lucerne was the very first book in the series. I read this book when it first came out. In fact, I think I went to Brad Thor's first ever book signing at the Sugar House Barnes & Noble in Utah. Back when this book first came out, he signed it for me. First edition. So the Scott Harvath series comes in at number 13. We're already starting out in spectacular fashion. I'll just throw those on the floor as we go. Number 12 is Steve Barry's Cotton Malone series. Now, Steve Barry's Cotton Malone series is very conspiracy theory-esque, Da Vinci Code-esque type thriller. I love these Cotton Malone thrillers. I think there's about 20 of them now, maybe 15 in the series. But again, I mean, this one, one of the things I will mention is, if I can, I will be showing the very first book in the series to you as I hold these up. So as you saw, A Time to Kill was the first book in the John Grisham series. Lions of Lucerne was the first book in the Brad Thor series. The Templar Legacy is the first book in the Steve Barry Cotton Malone conspiracy theory, Da Vinci Code-esque thriller series. I love these. Speaking of conspiracy theory, Da Vinci Code-esque thriller series, coming in at number 11 is James Rollins' Sigma Force series. Again, about 15 or so novels in this series. The first one is titled Sandstorm. It's a dynamite book. Dynamite series, again, conspiracy theories, strange scientific phenomena they investigate, plus just thriller stuff, you know, gun battles, explosions, things like that. I think the last one I read had nano robots in it. Anyway, not science fiction. As I said there, these are not science fiction. These are based on real conspiracy theories out there and real scientific facts and real historical things. I love the Sigma Force novels by James Rollins. I think one of the Sigma Force novels actually finished in my top 10 books of the year last year in 2023. We'll chuck that one on the floor. Okay, now we get to the top 10, the actual top 10. I'm going to start the actual top 10 in grand fashion with Mark Greeny's The Gray Man series, which is fantastic. I love The Gray Man. Mark Greeny, of course, finished off some of the Tom Clancy Jack Ryan books, and then he started doing his Gray Man books. Just absolutely fantastic. Or maybe the Gray Man books started before the Tom Clancy, I don't know. Anyway, these are dope, hella dope. Gray Man, probably one of the most badass thriller writers out there. Love his stuff. And then we are going to go into Plum Island, which is book number 1 in Nelson DeMille's James Corey series of thriller novels set out of New York City. I almost was kind of, no, it's John Corey, not James Corey. I knew I kind of fucked that up. But we'll edit that part out. And it's John Corey, book number 1. I think there's about 10 books in this series. I was almost kind of like, well, is this more of a mystery series or a thriller series? But then the book 1 is more of a mystery, but then they become more straight out thrillers after that. So that's why Plum Island, book number 1 in the John Corey. I keep saying James. Everywhere I say James Corey, I'm going to edit that out and put John Corey. But the author is Nelson DeMille. This is a great series. This is book number 1. If you like Robert B. Parker's Spencer series with the wisecracking, or if you even like Jack Reacher with he's always just the funniest, most smart, badass guy in the room, that's the similar type of thing with Nelson DeMille's series. And speaking of Jack Reacher, number 8, we do get Lee Child's Jack Reacher series. This is book number 1, Killing Floor. God, I believe this is the first book. If not, just pretend it's the first book. But I think this is the first book. So we all know who Jack Reacher is. He was Tom Cruise. Then he was another bigger guy in the TV show. And he's just a badass. All around badass, kick-ass, tougher than hell, ex-Navy SEAL Army Ranger something. But he's just a badass. Jack Reacher. Some of the funnest books you'll ever read are Jack Reacher. And then we've got the James Reese thriller series. This is the first book in the James Reese thriller series. This is The Terminalist by Jack Carr. There are I got them right over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 books in the series out so far. They also have the Netflix or HBO or whatever series on whatever channel it is with the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't remember his name right now. But anyway, Pratt, Scott, James, Matthew, Taylor Pratt. I think that's his name. Okay, but the Terminal List with Jack Carr's Terminal List comes in at number 7 in my top 10 thriller series. And then we're getting down to the top 5. But before we get to the top 5, let's talk about book number 6. That is Daniel Silva's The Kill Artist. This is book number 1 in Daniel Silva's Gabriel Allon thriller series. Gabriel Allon is an art restorer by day, international spy by night. And when I say art restorer, he literally, in Venice and Rome and places, he restores masterpiece artworks like the Vatican ceiling or the Michelangelo's sculpture. I don't think he ever restored any of those, but you get the point of what I'm talking about. And a lot of the thrillers have to do work in and around the art world, the finance world, and then just general thriller stuff. One of my favorite characters in a thriller series is Gabriel Allon. Book number 1 is The Kill Artist by Daniel Silva. That's number 6. That's my 6th favorite thriller series. And then we got the top 5, guys. The top 5 is going to be super fucking dope. And then we're just going to start right off with The Bourne Identity by Robert Ludlum. There's Robert Ludlum wrote 3 Bourne books, so this counts. It's a trilogy. He wrote 3 Jason Bourne books of his own, and then of course once the movies came out and Robert Ludlum was long dead, they're still writing Bourne novels to this day to the tune of 20 or something. I haven't read any of those. I've just read the original 3, but the Bourne Identity was the first one, and it enters at top 5 thriller series. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. The movies are great with Matt Damon. The books are even greater. The movies bear scant resemblance to the books, but the movies are dope. The books are dope. We get 2 stories for the price of 1. Watch the movie, get 1 story, watch the books, or read the books, and you get another story that's similar. Okay, The Power of the Dog by Don Winslow. Oh my gosh. This is probably one of the most realistic thriller series. This is the first book in a trilogy. The second book is called The Cartel. The third book is called The Border. But book number 1, The Power of the Dog, is a thriller series set amidst the South American cartels. And oh my God, it's like, if you ever saw that movie Cesario, it's like that, but 1,000 times more intense. It's just fantastic. Love this book. Love the trilogy. Gripped it scared the shit out of me. Very rarely do books scare me, but this book actually scared me more than any Stephen King horror novel. And then we've got top 3. Oh, these top 3 I had a hard time deciding. So, but I did rank them. But this one could easily be number 1 too. But this is John le Carré, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. This is book number 1 in his George Smiley series. Now the George Smiley series has maybe 7 or 8 books in it. I consider this book number 1 because there are some prequel novels. And the prequel novels are more murder mystery-esque. But this is really the first novel of the George Smiley series that kind of got into straight British espionage, thriller novel type stuff. And John le Carré was a British spy himself. He worked for MI5 or whatever. And so he took those experiences. And this is a very realistic look of what spycraft really is. It's not all the James Bond getaways and the Jack Reese genre, and then the terminalist explosions and the Jack Reacher, fist fights. This is like a down, dirty, gritty look at what real British spycraft was like. I love John le Carré books. We'll throw that one on the floor too. Book number 2. I might get some shit for this one, but I don't give a. These books are dynamite, and I ain't gonna make no apologies for it. But The Da Vinci Code. The Dan Brown Da Vinci Code series starring Robert Langdon. I think there's 5 or 6 books. I know this isn't book 1. I know Angels and Demons was book 1. But I liked holding this one up just because it's the more iconic book of the group of books. The Da Vinci Code. Again, conspiracy theory, Illuminati, Knights Templar, secret societies, thriller novels. When I first read this, I couldn't take my eyes away from it. It's one of the most magnificent reading experiences I've ever had. I thought it was great. And it's still great, and great enough that it's like number 2 in my thriller series list of books. It just is. It's just that good. And anybody that says it's not good is just a pretentious piece of twat waddle. Book number 1, my number 1 favorite thriller series of all time. Again, I'm not holding up book number 1. Book number 1 is The Hunt for Red October. I'm holding up Patriot Games because it had a better cover. The Hunt for Red October's cover sucked so much I didn't want to hold it up. But I love this cover, and so the Patriot Games. The Jack Ryan thriller series by Tom Clancy is the primo thriller series of all time. It is just got all the action and adventure and political intrigue you want. Plus, if you want to read every minute detail of a nuclear submarine or an army tank or a Magnum 44 pump action rifle or anything like that, he'll give that to you in spades. I mean, I love the detail he puts in these books. I love the adventures he puts in these books. I love the characters that are in these books. I love the situations they're in. I love the attitude of the characters. I love the attitude of Tom Clancy. I like the way he writes. Very detailed. The prose is good and delicious. It's just my favorite thriller series of all time is the Jack Ryan thriller series by Tom Clancy. And those, my friends, are my top 10 thriller, top 15. I know it was somewhere between my top 10 and 15 or something like that. But anyway, they're all on the ground here. I just tossed them on the ground if you want to see them piled up on the ground. It looks kind of cool, you know, piled up on the ground like that. Yeah, anyway. I'm going to be doing some more top 10 lists here soon. Yeah, so look forward to that.